Hello everyone. In today's video, we are going to look at the MCQ questions in the IELTS listening. So first of all, let us look at what is there in this particular question and why is it generally difficult for students to solve, and what are the techniques that we would be using to make it very easy. So firstly, MCQ is such a question type which is going to be there in either of your third or the fourth part of your listening module. And this is such a question type which is generally common and it is not skipped by the examiners. Okay, so basically what is there is you'll get a question and three options which would be related to the question, and you'll have to mark the correct one. There are generally 5 to 10 at least these questions are there and they would be there. So what is the first thing that you would be doing is, as soon as you get this particular, as soon as your previous section is over, section 2 or section 1 is over, and you get this particular question, in the 30 seconds of the time that they provide you to read, properly go through the question. Understanding of the question is very important. Understand what the question is asking you. Is it asking you what? Is it asking you when? How? Why? Who? Or whatever the question is asking you related to the topic, that you'll have to understand. Number 2, understand all the options properly. It is very important to read and understand the question as well as the options so that you know what is asked to you. क्या आपको पूछा है कब X and Y is going to take place, whatever the event is, or kahan the event is going to take place, or whatever the question that is for that matter. And it is necessary that you read more number of questions and the options in the 30 seconds of time that they provide. I think it will not be possible for you to read all the questions in that particular section, but जितने हो सके उतने हमें समझने पड़ेंगे, और मतलब you'll have to read and understand the question. So this is the number 1 tip and the first step, that is read and understand the questions. Number 2, you will hear all the options. ऑडियो में एग्जामिनर कंफ्यूज करने के लिए आपको सवाल ऑप्शंस, तीनों ऑप्शंस बोलेंगे वो लोग, A, B, C. So if you follow the audio, you will understand कि क्या एक्चुअल में आंसर है. So हमें, that is the number 3rd tip, that is you do not have to mark the first option that you hear. Understanding of the audio is very important. Also, you do not have to mark कि चलो सबसे पहले ऑप्शन C सुना, let's mark it. No. Understand the audio, understand what the question is asking you, and mark accordingly. It is very fair possibility कि आपको confuse करने के लिए, but however, या कुछ ऐसे words बोलेंगे audio में, and so that you can get confused of what is the answer B or is the answer C. So there are going to be a lot of these things, but if you understand the audio, if you follow the audio में क्या कहना चाहता है, if you understand that, then it is going to be really easy to solve. So the 5 tips that are there, the 5 easy steps that are there is, I'll just repeat them again. Number 1, read and understand the question as well as option. Number 2, you will hear all the options. So keep that in mind while you are solving. Okay, first wala tick nahi kar dena. That is the number 3rd tip. That is, you do not have to mark the first option that you hear. Number 4th tip is, don't match words. Words match nahi karne hain, meaning match karna hai hame. And the last step, easiest one, is follow the audio, not just words, but however, yeah, ऐसे confusing words आने वाले हैं. So you'll have to make sure that you do not get baffled, confused while you're solving. Now, let us look at a live demonstration of the audio and the questions so that we are able to solve all of them properly.
I've been reading your personal statement, Paul. First, let's talk about your work experience in South America. What took you there? Was it to gain more fluency in Spanish?
Well, as I'm combining Spanish with Latin American studies, my main idea was to find out more about the way people lived there.
My main idea, because he wanted dash, my main idea was to understand how people live over there. I'll play that part again. See, the first part of Spanish that she spoke was to confuse you. So you don't have to mark the first option that you hear. I'll play it again.
Spanish with Latin American studies.
In Spanish?
Well, as I'm combining Spanish with Latin American studies, my main idea was to find out.
My main idea was to find out. Now your answer is there.
more about the way people lived there.
More about the way people lived there. So, to learn about life in Latin America. I just hope you must have understood how you were first compelled to mark this, and then again we came over here. Now going to the next question, that is, what project work did Paul originally intend to get involved in? Matlab, yeah.
American Spanish was already pretty good, in fact.
So you weren't too worried about language barriers?
My Spanish was pretty good, so you were not worried about language barriers. So this is again a cross option. To improve his Spanish, that is not there.
No. In fact, I ended up teaching English there, although that wasn't...
I ended up teaching English there. See, this third option is also what is being played.
my original choice of work.
I see. How did you find out about all this?
I found an agency that runs all kinds of voluntary projects in South America.
What kind of work?
Well, there were several possibilities.
You mean construction, engineering work?
Yes, getting involved in building projects was an option. Then there was tourism, taking tourists for walks around the volcano.
Okay. So first part, construction was spoken, but he did not confirm to it, and then he came to tourism part.
Which I actually chose to do. And then
I'll play this part again, which I actually chose to do.
Yes, getting involved in building projects was an option. Then there was
He says was an option.
tourism, taking tourists for walks around the volcanoes, which I actually chose to do. And then there was
Which I actually chose to do. So we have got our second one as well.
work with local farmers.
But you did...
Local farmers. So agriculture is also there. But as we follow the audio, we would understand that why that is not the correct one.
Continue with that project. Why not?
Continue with that project means this gets us to the second question, that is, to the next question, that is, why did Paul change from one project to another project?
Because I never really knew whether I'd be needed or not. I'd thought it might be difficult physically, but I was certainly fit enough. Now,
I was physically fit enough. So this option would not be there because he was fit enough. This is just to confuse you, physically fit enough. So we are eliminating the C option.
I wanted to do something that had more of a proper structure to it, I suppose.
I wanted to do something that had a proper structure. His first job was not well organized.
I get demotivated otherwise.
I get demotivated otherwise. So I hope you've got this one as well. That is because his work was not well organized.
What do you think you learned from your experience?
Okay, now coming to the next one, that is in the village community, he learned how important it was to dash.
Must have been a great opportunity to examine community life.
Yes, but it was difficult at first to be accepted by the locals. It was a very remote village, and some of them were reluctant to speak to me, although they were always interested in my clothes and how much I had to pay for them.
Well, that's understandable.
Yes, but things soon improved. What struck me was that when people became more comfortable with me and less suspicious, we really connected with each other in a meaningful way.
You made good...
Okay, so when people started connecting with him, when did they started connecting with him? When they developed trust in him. He's not saying it directly, but...
Although they were always interested in my clothes and how much I had to pay for them.
Well, that's understandable.
Yes, but things soon improved. What struck me was that when people became more comfortable with me...
When people became more comfortable with me.
And less suspicious,
Less
we really
suspicious.
connected with each other in a meaningful way.
Less suspicious, that is develop trust. Suspicious is opposite of trust. So less suspicious is more trust. Likewise. The next question, what does Paul say about his project manager?
You made good friends?
Yes, with two of the families in particular.
Good. What about management? Did you have a project manager?
Yes, and he gave me lots of advice and guidance.
And was he good at managing too?
That wasn't his strong point. I think he was often more interested in the academic side of things than filing reports. He was a bit of a dreamer.
And did you have a contract?
Okay. So he was more supportive.
I think he was often more interested in the academic side of things.
You made good friends?
Yes, with two of the families in particular.
Good. What about management? Did you have a project manager?
Yes, and he gave me lots of advice and guidance.
Lots of advice and guidance. Advice and guidance. What does Paul say about his lots of advice and guidance? Not about ambitious about project, and he let Paul do most of the work. That is also not being
And was
spoken.
he good at managing too?
That wasn't his strong point. I think he was often more interested in the academic side of things than filing reports. He was a bit of a dreamer.
So in this particular question, the first thing that we are hearing, that is the correct answer. That we'll get to know as we follow the audio. Because he is not denying or anything to that.
And did you have a contract?
I had to stay for a minimum of 3 months. My parents were surprised when I asked to stay longer.
Okay. Paul was surprised to be given dash. So contract, ye wala his parents were surprised regarding the contract. See.
And did you have a contract?
I had to stay for a minimum of 3 months. My parents were surprised when I asked
My parents were surprised. So ye nahi aayega C option because parents were surprised.
to stay longer, 6 months in the end. I was so happy there.
And did anything on the administration side of things surprise you?
What surprised you? That is what she is asking Paul. So now I think we'll get the correct option. This one we have eliminated, the C1.
What was the food and lodging like?
Simple, but there was plenty to eat, and I only paid $7 a day for that, which was amazing, really. And they gave me all the equipment I needed, even a laptop.
You didn't expect that then?
No.
You didn't expect that then, a laptop. So that gets us to the last option. I hope you have understood how to solve the MCQ part in the IELTS listening. If you want to learn more such tips, or if you want to have any other video for any particular question type that you find difficult, do put your comment in the comment section so that we can get your feedback and we would make the next video accordingly. Stay tuned for more such updates.